Alright my friends, welcome back to Frogboy X1 Gaming. I'm Andrew and today we're doing the review of the 7900 XT, the 1 year review. I've actually had this card for a whole year. So if you guys like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. I want to go over a bunch of things. I got some bullet points over here so that we can talk about some of this stuff so that I can kind of stay on track. I know how much you guys like that, or I know I ramble a lot in my videos, but I am going to have some ramble sections, but I got a bullet point this time, so we should be good. So first of all, guys, I want to start off with why. Why did I even decide to try AMD knowing that NVIDIA was the best and I already had NVIDIA? Okay. This might make some of you guys a little bit mad, and I'm going to try to explain this the best way I can without confusing as many of you as possible. Because this is where I kind of started going sideways in my whole little rant thing toward, you know, like NVIDIA or whatever. So let me go ahead and explain this to you. I'm going to try to be concise. I'm going to try to be direct. I started this channel as a console gamer. I had no desire whatsoever to really get into PC gaming. I was Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo Switch. That's what I wanted to cover. That was my goal. That was my plan. But as you know, starting a YouTube channel, things are never going to be exactly what you decide when you first start. Like, they're going to change. Over time, things are going to get different. Well, I had a lot of people in the community telling me, hey man, you need to go PC, you need to go PC. And so I finally did. I bit the bullet. I bought a 3060 Ti desktop, pre-built, and then a little while later I upgraded to the 3080 10 gig. Well, the biggest reason I upgraded from the 3060 Ti to the 3080 is because I was starting to get games, you know, like Spider-Man and stuff like that, that were starting to kind of struggle a little bit. And I was like, wait a minute, why are these starting to struggle on 1440p? You know, obviously there was a, you know, that game there has a lot of like there's a lot of stuff going on. I was having to use DLSS to play games at 1440p on that GPU. So I finally just bit the bullet and I bought that. So I paid $1,600, almost $1,700 for the pre-built itself. Then I spent another $740 something on the 3080. I put that in there. And then, you know, things were okay for a little while. They weren't bad. I was, you know, being able to play some of these games. But over time, because we were kind of spoiled in that instance where we were still getting the cross-gen games, things weren't really, you know, turning over to like next generation games just yet. So we were, you know, getting a lot of, you know, games that were kind of, you know, in between. They would still run really good on the consoles. And so I was getting to a point with the PC where I was just starting to get really frustrated, thinking, man, I spent like $2,500 on this and it's not even that much better than my Xbox Series X or my PlayStation 5. And, you know, we were starting to get, I mean, because because of the cross-gen period, we were getting games that were still running very well on PS5 and Xbox Series X. I mean, we all know how that turned out nowadays, but I was getting, you know, almost a like-for-like experience. And if you've been at the channel long enough, you know that I was pretty much more biased towards Xbox, you know, during the beginning of the channel. And Xbox had this way of producing better colors, you know, the colors that I like. Whereas the PlayStation was more of like that, like crushed black, stuff like that. So I wasn't really feeling the whole PlayStation aesthetic, you know, in games and stuff. Even a game like Assassin's Creed Valhalla would look different than it was running on the Xbox Series X, which was crazy. So I was like, all right, whatever. And the NVIDIA experience looked a lot more similar to what I was getting on the PlayStation 5. So at that point, I was just like, man, I don't really care much about this. And I was starting to get mad as the new games would come out. We'd get Forspoken. Forspoken was a stuttery, broken mess. Just so many games were starting to like come out. They were broken. I think the one that like really pushed me over the edge was Callisto Protocol. Callisto Protocol was that one that I was like, dude, I can't even play this game. It's a stuttering mess. So I immediately refunded that game. And then I think it was Crafton. Yeah, that's the developer, whatever. They gave me a review key for the PlayStation 5 version. I ended up playing through that on the PlayStation 5, and I was like, yeah, this is awesome. So at that point, guys, I was literally at the point where I was like, dude, I'm just going to stop caring about PC and just use it for the channel and not even worry about playing games on it. And I started thinking about it, and I was getting madder and madder, and like the AMD, and I started talking about it during live streams and stuff, you know, reminiscing about, man, I should have just got AMD. They had like 16 gigs of VRAM, stuff like that. And so then, like literally before I decided where I was about to quit PC gaming, I decided, you know, I'm just gonna buy the 7900 XT. So I did. I ordered it on Amazon. It showed up a couple of days later. I got it, you know, July 3rd of 2023. Yeah, July 3rd of 2023. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this. So July 4th, I set out to build my new PC. And lo and behold, that card wouldn't fit in my freaking pre-built. So I had to go to Best Buy. I had to buy all the stuff to come back and literally build a new PC. Like I had to build a whole freaking PC from the ground up just to be able to use that card. And, you know, there was a little bit of bumpy road at first. You know, I had mixed matched RAM sticks that I was trying to use, and that was giving me like this terrible stutter in some games. I ended up buying a new set of RAM. It worked just perfectly, and it's been freaking pretty much smooth sailing from that day on with that experience. So now I've got a bullet points. I've got some bullet points. We're gonna go over some of this stuff. I want to try to break some of this down, but I wanted to give you guys that, you know, that thing, and you know, at least give you a window into why I decided to go with AMD in the first place. I was struggling with the NVIDIA, and I was about ready to freaking quit PC gaming because I was like, dude, if this is the best, if this is what PC gaming is all about, I don't care. Like, I don't care. And I was starting to get pretty bitter. And then I bought that 7900 XT and I got it running. And oh my gosh, my friends, it has just been incredible since then. So, I ended up with the XFX Merc, what is it? The Merc 310 7900 XT. That's the card that's in there right now. That's the card that I've had for the whole year. And the build quality of that card, and I've bought multiple cards just in the last year to, you know, to like really test my theory and to like, you know, try to put things in perspective in my own mind and, you know, kind of not be so biased towards, you know, everything, and try to get a more well-rounded experience. And yeah, dude, it's just been crazy. But the build quality of the XFX Merc is really good, really robust, very strong, feels good, metal backplate, nice thick hard plastic, 3 fans. It just, I wish I had it in my hand right now so I could show you guys. Really durable filling card, and it feels well built. Comes with its very own, you know, support bracket for putting it in your case, but it is massive. This card is massive. It's not nearly as massive as my 4080 Super, but it is pretty freaking massive to say the least. It's definitely thinner, but it feels like it's much better quality constructed than my Gigabyte 4080 Super. It feels significantly better than that. I mean, that thing's huge and whatever, but this card feels like it's built much better. You know, the Adrenaline software, guys. I know that I've talked about this a lot, and with the NVIDIA GPUs, it's you're gonna have to watch, you know, some videos and stuff to kind of figure out things, to find your way around, to start, you know, there's just so many things and they're spread out all over the place. They are trying to rectify that. NVIDIA is trying to rectify that with an NVIDIA app, which is definitely showing some promise in making that experience better. But AMD obviously gets the win for that in my department. The Adrenaline software has been through multiple revisions since I've had this in the last year. When I first got the 7900 XT, we had like our basic features like our FSR and stuff like that. But as time has grown, we've started to get, you know, frame generation. We've started getting, you know, and you get like FSR3 frame generation. Also, you get driver level frame generation with the AMD's, you know, fluid motion frames and stuff. But we'll get to all of that in a little bit. We'll talk more about in depth about those features. But right now, you know, like the Adrenaline software, I like the way that it's set up. I like that I can get in there. I can get in there. I can set things up. I can play around with things. It tells me on the little tabs, you know, hey, what this is used for. It really helps you try to really kind of helps you understand, you know, what things do and how you can use them, and you can alt what is it, like you can alt R into the Adrenaline software from gameplay whenever you need to, and you can make adjustments. You can do settings. Some settings you'll have to get out of the game and get back in for them to take effect, but for the most part, most of that stuff works pretty good. Like you can turn some of them settings off while in game or turn them back on. It's got a pretty robust, you know, performance, you know, checker if you want to use like the frame rate counter and see how your hotspot's doing, see how the, you know, just see how the overall health of your GPU is while you're playing. Like you can get in there, you can check some of this stuff out. It tracks all your gameplay, it shows you your average frame rate, all kinds of stuff when you put the games in there, when you play them. I like the Adrenaline software. I think it is very, very cool. I absolutely utilize that all the time. If you want to, you can actually get into the performance tab, and you can go into tuning, and you can apply, you know, like a quick undervolt. You can apply an overclock. You can apply, you know, a memory overclock. You can get in there and select all that manually. You can adjust your fan curves. You can get in there, and you can set this up any way you want to, with, you know, just by right there from the software. And if you're rocking, you know, AMD CPU, you can even get in there, you can even get into Ryzen Master right from the Adrenaline software, and you can apply an overclock, you know, a default overclock. You can just use some of the settings. Those are the only ones that I've used. I've just done, you know, I've played around with some of them, and, you know, just kind of done like the overclock that they give you. You just push the button and an automatic like the auto overclocks and stuff. And then I've jumped over onto 3D Mark, and I've done some benchmarks after running, like, and you do actually gain a little bit of performance, and it's pretty cool, you know, like anywhere from like 2 to 5% performance just by doing like an auto overclock or undervolt or something like that. So there are things that you can actually utilize in there to you know, give yourself a little bit of a boost, which is pretty cool. Some of the other settings in there, like Radeon Chill or, you know, FreeSync, all of these different, you know, things that you can use. You can set like your frame rates, you know, like, hey, I don't want it to go over this frame rate. You've got a pretty good amount of overall control of your card, and you can really dial in a fairly stable experience with just almost just using like auto settings, which is pretty cool. Like I really like and I really appreciate that you can do that you can get in there, that it's not super hard, it's not super difficult. It will take you, I mean, like you will have to get used to, like, you know, the different compartments and, you know, different pages where everything's at and stuff, but they're clearly labeled. You can get in there, you can read some stuff, and you can, like, you know, read like descriptions and stuff and play around with things. And it's always, you can always just set everything right back to default, so no harm, no foul. Some of the other things in the Adrenaline software, you know, like the one of the things I do use the shadow play a lot. We'll get to that more down here in like some of the other in some of the other bullet points that I've got selected, but there's a lot in the Adrenaline software. I do like it. I do think that if you spend enough time in there, you'll start to get comfortable with it. You'll be able to utilize things, and you'll be able to get the most out of your GPU by utilizing some of those features. So let's talk about like the hardware of this card. Like I mentioned, you get so we'll start off with the ports. You get an HDMI 2.1, which is absolutely freaking incredible. If you're running like a newer TV, 120 FPS, 4K, 100% does that. Just make sure you get a good HDMI cable so that you've got so that you get a good connection. You also get three display ports on there. 2 of those are going to be DisplayPort 2.1, and then you have one DisplayPort 1.4. The DisplayPort 2.1 is actually an incredible feature, and I found out recently after buying this LG ultra-wide monitor that actually kind of was like really cool of AMD to throw that in there, because I get to use the full functionality of my LG 39-inch widescreen monitor, and it is freaking incredible. I don't have to get in there, I don't have to change any settings in the monitor. I can just use what I want to use. And when I talk about what I want to use is the virtual super resolution. Virtual super resolution is where you can, I bought a 1440p monitor. Clearly my 7900 XT is definitely a high-end 1440p card, entry-level 4K card, so I can put games at 4K, downsample them to the 1440p monitor, and get an overall better density in the image quality, which just looks incredible. Like I implore you to try that if you ever decide to grab one of these. So another thing about this card, obviously it's got the 4 ports. You got 3 fans. The fans are freaking incredible. It does get a little bit loud. I'm not even gonna lie. Like the card can get a little bit loud sometimes, especially when you're in like when you're playing like a pretty heavy game. Like it can get loud, and obviously you could probably hear it right now, and we're just like, you're not even playing, we're just sitting there. Me personally, that doesn't bug me too much. I know there's a lot of people out there that like want super quiet stuff, and me personally, I'd rather hear my PC than not be able to hear my PC. It doesn't bug me when I'm playing my games or anything like that. It's never gotten like super loud like the pre-built that I used to have. That thing got loud. Like it would like turn on and start zooming real quick. This one here is significantly more quiet than that, and so that's why it probably doesn't bug me too much. But yeah, you do have the 3 fans. They seem fairly well spaced apart. My GPU stays pretty cool. Usually it's right around the 60s. Hotspot tops out at like right around the 90C. Apparently that is normal. I've seen a lot of people make a lot of comments on that kind of stuff, and I'm just like, yeah, I mean, it seems like it's within the normal range. It's not throttling or doing anything like that, so that seems pretty cool. Plus, we also have the 20 gigabytes of VRAM. I have not ran out of VRAM not one time with this card, so that has been an absolute bonus to be able to have peace of mind that whatever I'm playing, I'm going to be able to utilize and play that game at whatever settings I want. That's been a big thing. Like this is double the amount of VRAM from my 3080 10 gig, and yeah guys, I haven't experienced any problems, any issues with VRAM or anything like that, and it runs faster. In my experience, guys, you know, and this is mainly from like testing, you know, like the 4070 12 gig and stuff like that, that when I'm playing a game, and you know, and even on the 7800 XT that I had, with the 16 gigs of VRAM, if I'm playing something and that card is, you know, registering like 15 gigs of VRAM usage while playing that game, I've noticed that like if the 4070 or the 4070 Super was getting up there into the 11s or whatever, like it would do this on The Witcher 3, and I would notice that like the experience, while it was fine, like I was getting good frame rate and all of that, it just felt more stuttery on the 4070s, on the 4070 cards, and that would happen, you know, fairly often with games that if the AMD card was showing that it's using, you know, higher amounts of VRAM than what the NVIDIA side is showing, if it was close to tapping out at that 12 gigs of VRAM, I noticed that the smoothness of the AMD cards was significantly more smooth than what we were getting. And I mean, this even extends down to the 7600 XT. I've done a lot of this testing, guys, and a lot of it I don't put on the channel because I don't look at myself as like a technical channel. I feel like I'm more of like a consumer and bringing you like consumer information. So I'm not really confident in my ability to do a lot of that stuff or to not make mistakes, because I've made a lot of mistakes on this channel, especially with the PC. I get a little hot-headed sometimes and I make mistakes, and you know what I mean? So I try not to do all of that, but these are things that I've noticed during my experience with having, you know, lower end NVIDIA GPUs and higher end NVIDIA GPUs, as well as low end and high end AMD GPUs. I set out this year to like really dig deep and figure out, you know, what is it about PC gaming that's exciting? Why do I want to play on PC? Why is it that AMD had such an effect on me mentally, and you know, just completely changed the way I wanted to play games? And I've been asking myself that question and trying to figure out how it is that AMD, the GPU manufacturer that everybody says is trash, how is it that one has 100% to this day kept me in the honeymoon phase? And I mean, the monitor even made that significantly more. Like I'm absolutely like, yeah, this is cool. It's one of those questions I've tried to answer. But getting back to the 4070 you know, like VRAM kind of thing. And I don't think that the 4070 is a bad card. I feel like if you're patient with it and you nurture it, and you know, you don't like try to like push it, you know, way too hard by trying to like do a whole lot of 4K gaming and stuff on like some of the newer stuff. And I don't know if I mean, like, obviously you can do 4K on some stuff on there. Just know that like that VRAM limitation on some of these games is going to, you know, induce, you know, stuttering and stuff. Like, you're not going to see like textures, you know, like not loading in or anything like that. There's some weird going on with the way NVIDIA VRAM stream, blah, blah, blah. I'm not a technical, I don't know the answer to it. All I know is the experience that I feel is not exactly what I would call premium when it does that kind of stuff. Like, that, to me, that's not premium. That's like, dude, like, why didn't they just put in a VRAM on here to actually play and run the games in a smooth, good experience? You know, I mean, if broke AMD can afford to put more VRAM on them GPUs, I'm pretty sure the $3 trillion company NVIDIA can afford to do the same. That's NVIDIA's fault. Purely NVIDIA's fault. The reason I feel the way I do, not my fault, it's their fault. I'm the consumer. The consumer is always right. That's their problem, that I was unable to find solace with their product. So yeah, the 12 gigs thing, I've noticed this with the 4080 Super as well. There's some game I was playing the other day. It was hitting like 18 gigabytes of VRAM usage on the 7900 XT. It was hitting like almost 15 something on the 4080 Super, and I would get stuttering. I would love to show you guys this stuff and like put it on there like side by side, but after the whole freaking Avatar thing, I'm until I'm comfortable in my ability to collect the exact same footage with the exact same settings and all of that stuff, I'm not doing side by side freaking things anymore. I'm not doing them. I'm trying not to make the same mistakes that I made before, because I'm not good at that right now. I'm not good at that. I will, you know, eventually maybe someday be better at that, but right now I'm not. So in terms of like, you know, the hardware support, obviously I've kind of, you know, like the VRAM, sorry that whole explanation kind of went a little bit longer than whatever, but yeah, like the VRAM thing, having 20 gigs of VRAM, having the HDMI or the DisplayPort 2.1 has definitely been a bonus. Other than that, you know, you've got like the overclocking and stuff on the XFX model, that you can have the silent mode or the overclock mode, which I pretty much just run it in the stock mode that I got it in. I haven't even, you know, played around with any of the other stuff, just to kind of get that experience. So we're going to move on to continued support, and this is that thing that they call AMD fine wine type stuff. When I first got this card, we basically had, you know, like, I mean, like FSR, we had some other, you know, like features and stuff. Obviously we had stuff like Radeon Chill, and, you know, some of the other things like virtual super resolution, all of that stuff that you can actually get into AMD's, you know, software and start using right then and there when I got that. But as time has progressed and, you know, more updates have come out, we've gotten FSR 3, we've gotten, you know, we've gotten, you know, FSR 3, we've gotten HyperRX, we've gotten AMD's fluid motion frames that are all driver level features. It's one of those things where they've even given us like betas. I tested this thing throughout the whole beta. I was running it on the 7800 XT, the 7900 XT, the 7600 XT. I was playing around with a lot of this stuff, and I was getting really used to it and trying it, and, you know, just kind of putting myself in a position or putting myself in a mindset. I'm like, okay, well, I spent you know, $841 for this GPU. I spent $540 for the, you know, for the 7800 XT, and I spent, you know, like $440 for the 7600 XT. And I was putting myself in a mindset like, okay, well, how do these cards perform? Like, are these features worth using? Is flipping on HyperRX and taking advantage of all of the tuned features, you know, for these games? Is using AMD's fluid motion frames good? Is the continued support that I receive on my AMD GPU, is it acceptable? Does it take too long? You know, I've asked myself these questions, and when I'm sitting here with my 7900 XT, and from the day I've gotten it till now, I'm like, wow, dude, that is such an improvement. We've gained performance. We've, you know, we've gained performance, we've gained new features, we've definitely, like, it's definitely come a long way. And I would say that, yeah, the fine wine thing is better. Like, it is perfectly acceptable to say that yes, you are getting a much better experience from the day you bought it to now. And that, to me, seems to be continuing to grow, because if you really look back at anybody with a 6900 XT, even their experience has improved right alongside mine. There was no, okay, well, the 7000 series is getting it, but these guys aren't. I mean, they did, you know, kind of say that a little bit, that they, but then they found a way, they made it work, and they made it happen. So that was, boom, it's there. Like, you can use that, and they are bringing their older generation of stuff forward with the newer stuff. Now, the 5000 series, I kind of understand. There just wasn't, you know, the, I guess there's not the AI cores or whatever to do that, but, you know, 6000 had them, 7000 had them. So whatever. I mean, they're bringing those features to their older cards, which is therefore in turn giving, you know, bringing those forward and making them still viable options for gaming in 2024. If you look back and you take back, if you go look back, you know, had I went with the 6800 XT, I would have had 16 gigs of VRAM over the 10 gigs, and I think I would have been in a much better mindset when it came to PC gaming. I think that things could have been significantly different had I went AMD in the first place. So if we look at that, the HyperRX, the AMFM, I mean the AFMF, you know, like AMD's fluid motion frames. This is a driver level frame generation type deal. You can utilize that. You can just flip it on. You can use it with basically any DX11 or DX12 game. It works. I've used it, you know, to varying degrees of success. Some games are really awesome and they feel just great with it. Some games obviously weren't as good as what the other ones were, but overall, as a driver level feature that you can use with all of those games, I don't think it's a bad thing to have. Would you use it for everything? Probably not, but there are some use cases that it would probably actually benefit and enhance your experience. So we're going to go ahead and move over to games and compatibility, because I've heard people talk about this and I'm like, yeah, I've kind of run into some things, my friends. I've run into some things with, you know, compatibility mainly, but when it comes to games, usually the games were running pretty dang good. I definitely had far more shader stutter struggle type stuff on the NVIDIA cards than I have on the AMD cards. You guys wonder why I probably don't talk about it a lot. There have been some games that have come out, you know, like Ark, Survivor Ascended or whatever. That game was trash right when it came out. Like that was probably the worst stuttering Stanley mess game I've had since. But there's been like a couple of other ones, but it's never been big enough to where it was like, oh my gosh, like it almost felt like with the 3080 that I was getting a stutterfest after stutterfest after stutterfest in succession, and that kind of sucked. You know what I mean? Like that kind of sucked. So it's been nice with AMD to not have as much of that, you know, as I did before. But I'm not going to say it doesn't happen, because it does happen. Another thing that kind of comes into this part is the AM dip. It's real. It happens every once in a while. It's going to be up to you whether that is going to completely, you know, make or break the deal for you. It happens, you know, mainly I've found it to happen mainly in like open world games or like you know, like my Ubisoft games is when I'll run into AM dip, and it's usually like the older games, not none of the newer recent ones, but you know, like I think I get it in every once in a while in Ghost Recon Breakpoint. I get it in, you know, like Immortals Phoenix Rising. I get it in some of them older games. I definitely get it. So it's real. I do see it and I do experience that, and there's no reason to try to tell you it doesn't happen, because it obviously does happen. And if you bought an AMD GPU, you're gonna see it, and I'm not gonna sit here and try to tell you you're crazy like people try to tell me I'm crazy. It does happen. And yes, it really is just 100% game dependent. It could happen on pretty much anything, but I have noticed it mainly with older. I have noticed it mainly with older games. I don't really see it as often creeping up in any of these newer games. So yeah, this is more of an older games thing, and that's, you know, like part of the compatibility thing. I've had games absolutely refuse to start. The Mafia Definitive Edition, it refuses to start. There's some other ones in here, like yeah, Mafia. Gosh, some of these older games that I've been buying, because I've been buying a lot of these older games, and some of them, they absolutely just refuse to work with the like live, like what's this one? It's like a live something. I'm sorry, my screen was kind of like timed out or whatever. So I should have had like some of these written down, but I wasn't really. I didn't, because it's not a whole lot of them, guys. It's only like literally like the Mafia one doesn't freaking start for me, and then there's the Left Alive, doesn't work that great on the AMD cards, but it works perfectly fine on NVIDIA. So Mafia, Left Alive. Let me see if there was one more. I think there might have been one more that did not work on here. Oh, and I just bought this the other day, Prince of Persia. Yeah, like a Prince of Persia game, like the cell shaded one. That one won't even start. So there are games that I've started to run into that are just not compatible, or they're not working, or something like that. They just won't start. And actually the other day I ran into this when I bought Doom Eternal. It wouldn't start. I was like, what the freak? What's going on with this? Why won't Doom Eternal start? And it just wouldn't start on my monitor. Once I switched my monitor over to the TV, it booted right up. So that's something that I want to go back and I want to try some of those games and make sure I'm just trying to boot it on the right screen or whatever, because it wouldn't even boot. And some of them I think are not booting due to like the higher resolutions, like especially something like Prince of Persia. But I don't understand why freaking why Mafia Definitive Edition doesn't work. That one actually does not work on the NVIDIA GPU either. So that one there is just for some reason it's not working. So yes, I have run into some compatibility issues with some of the games that I've played. As time goes on, I'm pretty sure I will continue to run into that. That's something that a lot of people say that might be a problem with the AMD experience. So there you go, man. There's the honest truth. I'm not trying to hide anything from you. I'm not trying to betray your trust or anything like that. Like, that is true. That's something that you could potentially run into. Content creation, man, with an AMD card. So I use Shadowplay. I absolutely love AMD's Adrenalin software, Shadowplay. I feel I get good quality recordings out of the software. I have zero issues getting in there, recording anything. I can record in AV1, and then I can upload that straight to YouTube from AV1, but I cannot upload AV1 into the editing software that I use, which is Cyberlink Power Director. I can't use that just yet. I don't know, maybe they'll update it sooner or later, but I've tried to upload those files in there. It doesn't work. I have to usually run them through something else to update them or get them to work or whatever, and that never just, you know, that never quite works out very well. So the AV1, I can upload that straight to YouTube, and either way, when I record, I feel like I get great freaking great quality, and I've noticed that, like, I don't lose a whole lot of performance at all using the Adrenalin software. I do lose a pretty decent amount of performance using, you know, NVIDIA's Shadowplay, but on the AMD side, I don't lose that. When it comes to my Cyberlink Power Director editing and stuff with this card, I was kind of surprised, you know. A lot of people say that NVIDIA is like a lot better, and up till I got that 4080 Super, I had experienced, you know, I mean, it was like give or take probably the same time rendering out videos and stuff. So I was just like, all right, I don't know, like it's not even that big of a deal. But running you know, both the 7900 XT and the 4080 Super on that hardware, it still feels pretty close. Like I don't feel like I'm at a disadvantage with the 7900 XT. I don't. Like, things render pretty quickly. If I'm doing like a 30-minute, 40-minute video, usually about 10-15 minutes at the most to render them out with both GPUs. So I'm like, okay, that's not bad. I actually feel pretty good about that. I can use that. Obviously, you know, there's the one thing, you know, that I would really love to be a lot better, and that is the noise suppression. I try to use it every once in a while. It still kind of pops and cracks. When I get kind of excited, it'll just pop and crack. I don't understand why that's doing that. I wish there was a way for me to fix that so it didn't do that, because I don't have that issue with anything else until I use that AMD freaking noise canceling software. So that is something that AMD obviously needs to work on, and I hope they can get that fixed. And yes, it happens with all of my microphones, so it's not the Yeti Blue. It would happen with the Rode if I had that hooked up. It happens with that other new microphone that I got from Fifine the other day to test that on the channel. So yeah, that's one of those things. I'm actually using the HDMI cable that Silk, I think they're called, yeah, something Silk. Oh gosh, where's the packaging for that? Oh, it's right there. Silkland sent this out to me to test out for them. This is their 10K cord. I did use this. That is what is running to my HDMI slot right now. I have perfect connectivity with that, actually on both GPUs. Like there's no issues at all. I noticed that I used to get like a little bit of flickering and stuff. None of that flickering. I haven't had that flickering since I've been using this actual HDMI. I actually did spend like $40 on another HDMI cable when I was having the problems with the NVIDIA GPU. That absolutely solved it. You know, you spend $40 on a freaking 3-foot HDMI cable, it's probably going to work. But the Silkland for their 6-foot cable, it's like $13. I should have bought this, and it works just fine. Perfect, no issues whatsoever. So in terms of like the creator software and everything, I've had zero issues being a creator with AMD. Like I don't have any problems with it. I'm actually pretty comfortable using it, and it has not impeded me from putting out any of the type of content that I want to put out when I want to put it out. Let's talk about this. I know you guys are gonna freak out, but color reproduction. This is kind of something that is a little bit big for me, and I know this is kind of a touchy subject. People tell me that I'm crazy, and I don't care what you say. I don't care if you think I'm crazy. You know, when we go back to the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, and then I got the NVIDIA GPU. Like I said before, the PlayStation and NVIDIA experience looked quite similar. I don't care for that realistic tone this is purely subjective, my friends. I need you to understand that. I prefer the more vibrant look to my colors. A lot of people like that more realistic tone, which PlayStation and, you know, NVIDIA are very good at. Very good. If that is your thing, they are very good at that. But if you are like me, and you like Xbox, and you like bright, vibrant, beautiful freaking colors on your OLED displays, AMD's probably going to be the better choice for you. So, with NVIDIA, they have digital vibrance. Yes, you can turn this up. To me, what it does to those colors is exactly what everybody talks about. No, you're going to ruin it. And you're right. Yes, if you use digital vibrance and you turn it up, it will absolutely blow your freaking colors out and make them look terrible. But with AMD, if you turn up the saturation to 150 in the AMD software and you turn on the color thing, boom, it actually intensifies that color. It doesn't blow it out and make it look terrible. It just intensifies it. And that, to me, my friends, is incredible when you couple that with HDR. And it does 100%, in my opinion, make the HDR look significantly better on the AMD platform. And you can't say that there's not HDR issues on PC, because everybody complains about it, and 90% of the PC market is NVIDIA. I don't complain about it. Why? Because it looks incredible on my AMD GPUs. I love using the HDR with my NVIDIA, with my AMD build. It looks incredible. if that's something that like makes you uncomfortable or makes you upset, I'm sorry that you feel that way, but this is me, man. These are my preferences and these are my opinions. I like that. And there's other people out there that probably are like me and have them same taste and are like, yeah, man, I want the vibrant colors with the great freaking HDR. That's where you get it, is with the AMD side. Now, I like it. Now, I want to talk about another amazing feature of mine, which is, you know, density of pixels. And this is another thing that people tend to get a little bit like, what are you talking about, man? NVIDIA's the best. When I first got the AMD card, like, I could see immediately that I was getting a better, different looking image quality as opposed to what I was getting with NVIDIA. When I would be looking at my 1440p monitor, because that's basically what I was running, and I was perfectly okay with 1440p. 1440p made both my consoles look good. I was good with that. I was happy with 1440p, and I noticed, and I mean, some people might not notice this, whatever, but I do think that a lot more people out there can notice this than, because I'm not the first person to talk about this, and I won't be the last. But I do feel like AMD produces an overall better image quality at the pixel level. It's weird. Like, and the reason I know this to be a fact, my friends, is when I'm using the NVIDIA GPU, I just have this sense of like, okay, yeah, I mean, this looks all right. I mean, it looks good. I mean, it's, you know, what you would expect, you know, or whatever. And I'm like, okay, you know, and I just play, you know, I play my games, and I would be perfectly fine with an NVIDIA GPU. Don't get me wrong. And I'm just playing, you know. But then when I put the AMD card back in on the exact same screen, on the exact same game, and I just turn it on and I look at it, I'm just like, wow, that looks so good. And I get this feeling every single time that the AMD card is in there. And I don't get that overwhelming feeling of like, wow, this looks great when I have the NVIDIA card in there, like ever. Like, I don't ever get that feeling with NVIDIA at all. But when I have the AMD card in there and I'm looking at the same game and I'm like, damn, this just looks incredible. Like, there's something, and I'll get close and I've looked at this, and I don't really have a way to prove this. But when I look at the NVIDIA side, the detail and everything is there. It is there, but in some ways, a lot of it looks kind of cel shaded to me. Like you see, like the really fine lines and all of that, and it looks good, but it just looks kind of like it looks shallow. And I mean, I guess you could say that, like it's shallow. Whereas on the AMD side, it looks dense. Like the lines are there. They're not as sharp and as crisp. They look fuller. They look more dense. Everything looks more like it's maybe it's the way it's rendered. I don't know. Like a better 3D spatial awareness type deal. I can tell a difference. I mean, I can literally tell a difference. You know, I mean, if you're sitting 5 feet away from it, like, they probably do look the same. Like, they look the same if you're looking at them. But when you really look at them, I can see a denseness in the AMD side that I just don't see on the NVIDIA side. I don't see that. I wish I did. But that does actually enhance some games, my friends. Like, I'm not saying it's bad. Like, it does 100% enhance some games, like RoboCop and some of them other games that deal with a lot of, like, you know, like metallic surfaces and stuff like that. Like, NVIDIA does very good at some of that stuff, guys. Like, I'm like, ooh, some stuff, when I do look at it, I'm like, dang, that looks very good on the NVIDIA side. Like, it does. But I get wowed way more on the AMD side than I ever have on the NVIDIA side. I'm always in like, wow, this looks incredible on the AMD GPUs, and I like that. I'm going to tell you right now that a lot of that is on a 1440p monitor. It is a lot harder to differentiate between that when you're on a 4K screen. The 4K there's so many more pixels it's got to fill in, and you know, usually by the time you've filled in all of that and you add the extra sharpness of the 4K and stuff, the image quality starts to look a lot more like the NVIDIA side. Like they're still pretty sharp. Obviously, you still got the the different colors. Obviously, these GPUs put out colors in a different way. But in overall terms of like the image quality, like denseness and stuff, you kind of lose that when you transition to 4K. That's why I don't really care for 4K that much. I lose that, and I really do like that vision, that view that I get, that visual quality, that pixel density that I believe that I get. Because once you go to 4K, that's not the case anymore. Now the sharpness has taken over, and you get that crisper image quality because you got more pixels on a 4K screen to deliver a higher density of pixels. So now you're getting a lot more sharpness, a lot more crisp image quality. And I think that's probably why a lot of people are like, hey, you're freaking batshit crazy, you're not, blah blah blah. A lot of this really does come from the 4K monitor, from the 4K 4K screens. Being able to look at that on a 4K screen and see that, in my opinion, I just get a better density and a better overall pixel density. It just looks better, man. At a pixel level, man, it just looks better to me. So I don't want to beat that up too much. Obviously, if you're looking at this at 4K, you're probably not going to notice. If you look at it at 1440p, you'll probably definitely notice. If you actually engage virtual super resolution and you look at that there, you're going to see it even more. It definitely looks incredible, my friends. I like that look. It does look a little bit softer. It doesn't look as crisp as 4K or anything like that. Even the NVIDIA GPUs look a little bit more crisp at 1440p, which is that's definitely a preference thing. I definitely prefer the way the AMD GPU renders these. To me, that is just incredible. I absolutely freaking love it. So, power draw. Obviously, this card draws a lot of power. It gets pretty warm, and it's usually right around 330 watts of power. This card's a beast, man. It runs pretty. It definitely runs pretty high wattage. So that's something to definitely take into consideration if this is something that you're considering buying. You are going to spend more money and power over time, and it does get a little bit warmer. Like it does get a little bit warmer in here. Like sometime in the summertime, like I can definitely feel the radiating heat, and I can feel the radiating heat in the wintertime too. Like it is a warm card. And it does need some juice, man. That's probably like the one thing that I hear a lot of people, really complaining about, and that's true. That is definitely a factor in this card. Like it's warm, and it uses power, and it pushes pixels. So I don't know what else. I don't know what else to say about that. That is something that you might want to take into consideration. The 4080 Super definitely runs significantly less. I think it's like what, 240 or something, 240 watts, or if I remember correctly, yeah, it's in the 200s for that card, running at freaking max whatever. Like it's still in the 200s. Every now and then it'll get up to like 300 or whatever, like 280 or whatever. But yeah, if that's something that really matters to you, I would suggest a 4070 Super Ti, or 4070 Super, or 4070 Ti Super. That one there's going to run a lot better overall, power wise. That's definitely a thing, man. Like that works. So game performance and consistency on the 7900 XT. This is the last thing that I wanted to talk about. Over the years since I've had this GPU, mainly on a 1440p monitor or equivalent to that, I do run a lot of the older games, higher resolution, and then downsample them. Most of the newer games I am running at 1440p. Every once in a while I'll bump it up to like 1800p maybe if I've got the headroom. What I'm looking for right there is 60 FPS experience with denser visual quality. So I definitely utilize the virtual super resolution a lot with that. Is what I wanted to talk to you guys about with game consistency and performance. Is I've found that this GPU usually runs right around 70 to 90 frames a second at 1440p, usually without having to use any type of upscaling whatsoever. I'm usually getting a pretty consistent experience throughout, across multiple genres of games. So overall, that's been pretty consistent across the whole year. Haven't really ran into a whole lot of games that are super demanding. So In conclusion, my friends, I think AMD is the GPU for me. That's who I want to stick with. I'll probably be running the 7900 XT pretty much exclusively. Every time we get a ray tracing game, I'll pull out the 4080, but I don't really have any desire to really put the 4080 back in there. Especially now that I got this new monitor. The monitor is actually freaking perfect with this GPU. It runs very, very well. So I tend to, you know, feel pretty good about, you know, using this 7900 XT as my daily driver until it dies or it gets replaced. So yeah, guys, I'm pretty confident with the 7900 XT. I'll probably get you guys another video a little later, you know, explaining the rest of it, you know, probably talking more about this. But as it sits right now, guys, yeah, dude, the 7900 XT is an absolute freaking beast of a card. This is something that has 100% proven itself multiple times over and over and over again across this year. And that's why I choose AMD. I've just had a good experience with AMD this whole freaking time, whereas with NVIDIA, it's just been up and down, and I don't want to sit here and waste my time on NVIDIA when I have a perfectly good experience with AMD. So if you like this content, do not forget to like and subscribe, my friends, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.